Alright guys, this is my Husqvarna 224L, which is a 4-cycle, takes just regular gasoline. That's what I like about it. No mixing, no smell, and everything. And the engine's fairly quiet. For you guys who don't know, that the engine in this is basically a Honda GX25. So if you didn't know that, now you know, because if you're trying to find parts for this, you're going to find it extremely difficult to find it, because you don't know that this is actually a Honda trimmer, not a Husqvarna trimmer. There are some subtle differences, like the air intake, etc. So my problem is I've got spark and I've got fuel, but I've got no run. So I'm going to show you what the problem is. I already figured out. You pull this screw out. I don't remember what it is. I think it's a torque tip 15. Don't exactly remember. Doesn't really matter. You'll figure it out if you have to get it off. First thing you want to do is go ahead and pull this off of here. Go ahead and pinch this right here and slide it down. Push this back up here because you won't be dealing with that. And after you pull that screw out, go ahead and lift the shroud off. All right, now to get down into where the problem is, these are 4mm. Just take these out. I don't think you need to see me to take those out, so let me get them out real quick. All right, go ahead and get your screws off. Set them on the workbench. And just lift this cover up kind of gently, and then rotate it back and forth. And it's kind of nice. It's got its own little gasket built into it, so you can reuse it. In other words, it's not going to be damaged. So set it aside, and that gives us access to the rocker arm assembly, which is where my problem is. My problem is that this is too loose. See how this one is nice and tight? So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and you want to set your mark. Let me turn on the light. All right, here we go. We have our timing mark, which is an arrow. You want to make sure that it's pointed straight up and down. Let me see if I can focus on it. There it is. It's right there. And then make sure that your cam is straight up. And then your valves should be loose. And this valve right here, it kind of sticks a little bit when you're pushing down on it. So that may have been the issue. Maybe it got stuck and the cam came around. And let me see if I can focus in on side down here. See that cam? That cam should be riding, or that cam follower should be riding on the actual cam itself, and it's not. And that's the issue right there. It's got way too much play. So I'm thinking maybe this got stuck or something, and when it came around, it couldn't move, couldn't push it down, so the cam came around and it bent this arm right here. I'm not entirely sure, so in order to check it out, I'm gonna have to remove this arm right here and see what the deal is. I'm also gonna compare it with the other arm over here, and they have little timing marks on them, or alignment marks, and they look like it points straight down to the little corner of those bosses, and they do. And you come around to this side, and this let's see if I have it here. This mark is on the inside right there, the little dot. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can get my finger in there. There's a little dot right there. And then this dot is pointed horizontal. So they're both horizontal, so it leads me to believe that that tab was bent, or the shaft slipped on it. I'm not entirely sure. I've tried putting screwdrivers on it. I've tried to do all kinds of things to get this out, and I haven't been able to do it. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pull this spark plug. I don't have the service manual on. They want like $39, 40 bucks for it or something. So I went ahead and I just bought another weed whacker, since this was it was about $330 brand new, and I've had this for over 5 years, and it has been the most reliable and best weed whacker I've ever owned in my life, and I've owned quite a few. I ended up buying a weed whacker just about every year. I've had Ryobi, I've had Troy-Bilt, I've had Craftsman, I've had a whole lot of, you know, $125, $150 weed whackers, and they say you get what you pay for, and that's 100% true. So anyways, let me get back to this. This thing never gave me an issue until it wouldn't start one day, and that's when I found this out. So hopefully this will be an easy fix. You can buy these rocker arm assemblies online. They're about $8. Not a big deal, not a huge expense. Let me go show you that real quick. Just look up GX25 parts. So this is kind of cool. You even have valves. All right, and then you could also look them up on other websites too. Let's just click on this, and this is the part number for the kit. So you can also put in that part number into Amazon, and it'll come up with a whole bunch of stuff too, including the timing belt. Now unfortunately, you have to know how to do this, or you're going to end up probably with a busted weed whacker again. And what I mean by you're going to need the manual, or you're just going to have to figure it out yourselves. So unfortunately, I don't have the manual. I have dug all over the internet for the manual, and I cannot find that manual other than on eBay. And I really did not want to pay the 30 bucks or whatever it was for the manual. So I've got enough experience with automotive that I think I can do this without that. So let's get back out to the garage on to this project here. All right, and we're back in the garage here. Now looking at the pictures, it looks like these have like little serrated keyways on, or not keyways, but like press fit teeth on the shaft. So that means that if I was going to remove this, I would have to push this shaft this way. I don't have a puller that can actually hold on to this. It wouldn't be too, I don't have enough room down inside this groove here to hold on to it. And so I'm really kind of perplexed on how to get it off. I looked up like tools and things for it, and I can't find anything. So it looks like the only way I'm going to be able to get this off is if I remove this gear right here, and that's why I said put the tooth up on the top. We're going to have to punch this pin out right here, which means that that pin has to come out from this direction right here. And in order to get that out, to get a punch on it, we have to, let me zoom out here. We're going to have to remove this spark plug and get a punch in there between these two rockers and push that pin out. And hopefully I'll be able to slide this off, get the belt off, and then I can get on here with a punch while somebody's holding this and punch this out, and then see if I can't get it off and inspect it, see if it slipped either on this side or on this side. I don't know. I did think about actually just pushing the screw down all the way, but the screw won't go that far, so I would probably have to really just put a lot longer screw in there, and I'm not so sure that's a good idea at this point. I may have to disassemble the whole thing. Here we are. It's a 16 millimeter socket for the spark plug on there. Just put your breaker bar on it and give it a pop, and then you can get it out. Alright, now I am going to check to see if the piston is at top dead center. I can do that with a screwdriver. Well, apparently I don't need a screwdriver. I have my my Allen wrench here, so let's see if it moves when I move this. Yeah, it definitely moves. Alright, so let's put this back up at top dead center over here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and move this over on the side a little bit so it's easier to see. I actually took my punch and I decided, well, let's see if I can even get this to move, and I was able to get this to move fairly easily. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that with a big hammer and a punch right here. That's a 3/16 punch if you want to know. And I'm gonna have my assistant actually film and hold this while I knock that out. And I'm trying not to hit this plastic right here. So I think I've got enough room that I can keep tapping it, and I'll be able to get this off before that hits this, and then I can reposition it, squish it back on, and see if it works. Here you go. All right, you're gonna need to hold that right there with your left hand. There we go. And then I'm just gonna tap this. So far, so good. And let's see, almost out. And it looks like I'm just about ready to hit it, so I don't have too many more taps. All right, I decided to go ahead and instead of driving this out this way now I have enough room. I could either get a puller on it or I could knock it off. And it's so far close to the edge, I think I'm just going to risk it and try to knock it off this way. There it is. And it fell down inside. I'll find it. Hold on. All right, now that I have it off, it fell down in here. All I had to do was turn the weed whacker over and it fell right out. I went ahead and I raised this up, this part right here a little bit, which you just basically, you loosen this nut and you can screw this out by your hand. The reason I did that is because I know when I put this back on, it's going to be a little tight. So at least I'll have some adjustment. But before I put this back on, and I'll probably just put it back on the same way, what I'll do is I'll just stick something in here to hold this up like this, up against it, and then I'll hammer this back on while it's flush. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the keeper on this valve. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower that piston a little bit. And I'm going to stick some rope in there. And then I'm going to take this and run the piston up against the rope to hold this valve up on top, or at least close enough to see what happens. All right, I got some rope. It's actually pull string rope. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the hole. And what this does is when you push the piston back up, it presses on the tops of the valves inside, and it keeps them from falling through when you remove the keepers. So let me get this in here, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, we've pretty much reached the end of the rope. Now I can take this and rotate it back over. And you can move it back and forth if you want to try to seat it. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push down on this keeper and slide it sideways till the valve goes in this little slot, the top of the valve, and then I'll let it up, and then the valve spring will release. See how that works? Then you just go ahead and pull it up like that. There you go. Now you have access to the seals, which are down below, and the valve. So now I can go ahead and release this a little bit down this way, and I should be able to take that valve and push it in and out a little bit by hand. And I am having a hard time with it. That's really stiff. So let me go ahead and pull this this off of here. That's the oil seal. There we go. Let me try to focus in on that better. That's the oil seal. I can clean that up. I'm just going to set it down here on my table. Set it down here on my table with my spring and keeper, and clean this off. And this should move easily, and boy, it is not. It is stiff. Whoop, there it goes. It finally went down. And I think what it is the rings on the piston have probably reached their life, and they're allowing oil to get up in the top where this valve is. And because they're up in top, when it ignites, it's cooking the oil on the valve stem so that it actually slightly increases the diameter of the valve stem, and then it gets stiff in the hole. So I could probably do this and rotate it around and eventually get it to free up, but probably after a while yeah, I'm just going to be right back in the same position again. The only reason I know that is because I had the same problem with my Husqvarna 4-wheel drive mower. But we're going to try it. We're going to go ahead and do this and rotate it around a few times, get it to where it's now, see where it just drops now, where before it was nice and stiff. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll put my valve arm back on, put it all back together, and see if I can get good compression, see if I can get it to run, and see how long it runs. If it doesn't run very long, then I'll probably have to pull this whole motor apart and change those rings. So let's go ahead and get this back together. All right, we're back. I put it on the tripod. Now what we have to do in order to get this valve to stay up on top, we actually have to rotate this crankshaft so that the rope pushes that valve up. See it coming up? Right now I've gone as far as I can. Now I need to get my my seal right here, this little piece, and I need to push it back down on the valve. But I want to clean this up a little bit first. All right, I've got my seal cleaned up and all the dirt and stuff out of it. Now I'm going to actually use a little bit of oil that's already in the motor, and I'm going to coat it, including the valve stem. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to hold this gear right here so that when I push down on the valve it doesn't move. So let's go ahead and get this back on here. There we go. Now I'm going to take my spring, I'm going to put my spring back on like that, and then I'm going to grab my valve keeper, spring keeper, and I'm going to put it on here, and then I'm going to offset it so that when I push down, the valve actually comes up through that little round hole right here on the bottom. So let me go ahead and do that. So let's grab it. Let's go ahead and push down and then slide it towards the center, and then it'll lock in like it did right there. So now this valve, let me push it back down a little bit, the rope that is. Now the valve operates freely, easily, and now I can go ahead and pull this rope out. There we go. So now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and line this back up for that tooth, that mark on the back side here. So let me mark that up, set that up. All right, here we are on the other side so you can see the mark. And I'm going to line that mark up vertically with this line right here. And here, and here. I'm going to line this up, and the center of the case all in one. Right there, just like that. If I can get it to stay. Theoretically, it shouldn't be a big issue, but my issue is to make sure that this cam rides, this cam follower actually rides on the cam while the actual lobe of the cam is vertical, which is your compression stroke, which is also your ignition stroke at this point. So this has to stay vertical when I go to take this arm and put this arm back on the teeth over on this side. You can't see it right now, but when I get ready to do it, I'll go ahead and turn it around so you can see it. So let's get this turned around so you can see it, and then we'll get on to that. All right, now I've taken a piece of wood and I've jammed it in here so that the cam follower actually is in contact with the cam. This is critical in order to ensure that when I go to put this back on, my little rocker arm here, that when I put that on there, that this is going to be in the right position. And the right position is that little dot on the left of it should be horizontal, and this little dot over here should be pointed at the corner of this right here, this little stub area right here. And the actual valve or tappet on the top of the rocker arm should be about right there. So now I can either get me a little press and press it on, or I should be able to hold on the back of this with a big hammer or another hammer, and then hit it on this side with a hammer and just tap it onto those teeth that are right here. So let's go ahead and get set up for that, and then we'll get that pushed on. Well, on a whim, I decided to go ahead and just try a big pair of channel locks on it, and it it actually worked. I still had to put it on the rest of the way, but I had to stop because the valve itself right here, stem on this one, was starting to touch the pin that goes down. So what I can do is I can actually back this off like this and screw it all the way up so that I can get this on the rest of the way. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, let's go ahead and see if we can get that to focus. Here we go. And we'll use the Allen wrench and turn it up so that's above it like that. Now we should be able to get this the rest of the way on with a pair of channel locks. Alright, I've zoomed in for you, so let's see if I can't get this to come in this way. Boy, that's tight. I think I'm going to have to tap it with the hammer. So hold on a second. Alright, I'm just going to tap it here while my son holds the other side. Alright, here we go. Now let's see how much play we got. A little bit more. I don't know what the clearance is, so I'm just going to match the other one. And I think that's it. Alright, let's see how it works out. Alright, that's how I had him hold it. Just like that. So he was holding the back side over here to keep it from moving. Alright, let's see what we get here. Let's pull this stick out, the tensioner. And let's see. And it does have a little bit of play, but a lot less than it did before. Now I can go ahead and I can actually set the clearance. And I'll look that up real quick and I'll let you guys know what that is. Alright guys, here's the valve lash right here, our valve clearance, which is this. And if you put that into a converter, that comes out to 3/1000ths of an inch, and this one comes out to 4/1000ths of an inch. If you want to know the address where I found that, there it is right there. Let me go ahead and click on that, because a lot of times they just show portions of it, they don't show the whole address. There it is, there's the whole address for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and go out to the garage and get that done. Alright, now that we know what it is, let's go ahead and set the intake, which is going to be at 3/1000ths. It's actually like 0.00315 or something like that. But the tolerance in millimeters is 2 millimeters, or yeah, 2 millimeters. So this is going to be not going to be an issue. So I'm going to take a 8 millimeter wrench and I'm going to loosen this up right here. There we go. Now I'm going to take a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench and I'm going to screw that down. If I can get this nut to come up. There we go. We're going to screw that down until it contacts this, and it's just barely tight. Come on, there we go. Alright, that seems to be about right. So now I'm going to run this nut down, loosen this back up a little bit. Alright, that seems to have some reasonable friction on it right there. So let's grab this, pull that out. I'm going to put our Allen wrench through our wrench and put our wrench on the nut and hold our Allen wrench steady, and then tighten this up right here. There's an actual torque spec for it. I don't remember what it is, but if you snug it up, it's not going to go anywhere. And we're good there. Alright, so that's our 3/1000ths on our intake. And let's go ahead and let's do our 4/1000ths for our exhaust. And the 4/1000ths actually works out to about 0.00433. But again, the tolerance is so tight, I mean so loose, that it'll be fine this way. So let me go ahead and grab my 8mm wrench again, and I'm going to loosen this up. Oh, wrong direction. Sorry about that. So loosen this up, and then I'm going to run this down until it just touches the feeler gauge, and then I'm going to test the feeler gauge and see if I got any movement, and see how it kind of bends a little bit and let you know it's a little too tight. So I'm going to loosen it up until it starts to slide, and that's it right there. So now I can go ahead and pull that out, put the Allen wrench on, put the Allen wrench through the wrench, and then grab this and tighten it up. Now I'm not going to tighten it all the way because I moved this wrench up just a little bit. So let's put this back in here and see if it's still, yeah, okay. So let's tighten this up a little bit more. All right, just starting to feel some friction, so I'm going to call that good. I'm going to hold the Allen wrench still, put the wrench on it, hold the wrench still, and then tighten this up. And then we're going to go ahead, put the feeler gauge back in, and it's in there. We have just a little bit of play, so this is going to be good. All right, let's zoom out. Oh, wrong direction. There we go. So we're going to zoom out, and then we're going to take this little tube right here that I had laid off to the side. Going to push it back up over here, make sure it's still in contact with the air cleaner, and it is. Put it back in this little round groove hole right here, right there. All right, so we're going to grab our top. I'm going to set this in here like that. Oh, it's got a wiggle in here. Put that down. Put our 4mm screws back in. Or actually, I don't know what size they are. It's just 4mm hex wrench, so they're probably 5 or something. You could look them up. Screw that in. Got the sniffles today. Sorry about that. There we go. Gotta tighten these down. Okay, that's tight. Let's put our spark plug back in. Spark plug back in. Put our little breaker bar on it. And there's a torque spec for that. I don't know what it is. I usually just give it just a little quick pop like that, and that's usually good enough. Never had problems with it otherwise. Put that on. All right, if you pulled this off right here, there's some little tabs that go on the inside. And let me see if I can't get this low enough for you to see. See the little tabs that go through those little slots down there? If you're having a problem, just stick your finger down there, right here, and push on that while you're pushing the air cleaner cover in, and it'll snap in. Do both sides. And the air cleaner itself, it's got little holes in it that line up with these little pegs. Just stick those in there like that. Mine's a little warm, but it's good enough for test purposes. Close it. Oh, I forgot. Can't do that just yet because you have to put the cover on, the main cover on. Let me get that open again. All right, so we're back there. All right, now take this, pull this out a little bit, put your cover on so it goes behind that, and then you're going to have this little wire down here. Just kind of take that little wire and stick it up in this little hole area right here. Put this up on top here, kind of wiggle it around, it goes down, snap that in, take this, go ahead and close it, put your screw in, and let's go run it. All right, let's give it a whirl. Let's go ahead and prime it. Turn the ignition on, hold the handle, and let's see, we got to put it on choke. would call that a roaring success. It didn't do that before. So now I got to do is find a screw, stick it in the top, and see if we can't get this thing to run a little longer than usual. As far as the valve, which I talked about, maybe the piston rings were bad. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. At least you know how to do it. God bless you all. If you want to help the channel, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want more. God bless y'all. Keep on you out. Bye.